The Opposition by Corey Madonna. Kyle Walker was alone in his car, his thoughts frustrated with things far beyond the evening traffic. Despite the news radiating with unprecedented hope, coral reefs miraculously regenerating, extinct species reappearing, and a record number of people diagnosed with terminal illnesses defeating their diagnoses, Kyle felt an inexplicable sense of dread. It seemed as though the whole world was basking in a sense of optimism that few could remember. People were even openly discussing the possibility of divine intervention, heightened by many recounting vivid dreams of past loved ones, reassuring them of a bright future. Kyle was riding to Harper's Bar, a local place in his neighborhood in Cincinnati, to get his mind off a fight he had had with his girlfriend Olivia. They had a fight about if what was happening really was the work of a god. Kyle was saying it simply couldn't be. It had to be mass psychosis causing the dreams of relatives, with a few good things happening by chance. He mentioned there were rumors of the Tasmanian tiger surviving for years, and extinct animals like the Yangtze dolphin reappearing wasn't impossible, or instantly the work of a divine being. Olivia recounted the record number of people with terminal diagnoses recovering unexpectedly, and that she thought maybe, just maybe, it might be something more. Kyle was angry and said she was acting like her mother, which was a line he immediately regretted. Olivia's mum was a hardcore Jehovah's Witness, who forbade her from watching any non-religious movies growing up. She was a woman Olivia couldn't wait to disown when she turned 18. Bringing her up to win an argument was a low blow that Kyle was mad at himself for using now. Shortly after that, he stormed out of their apartment and hoped he could gain clarity with a little beer and some alone time. Kyle had always been secular by nature. He found no comfort in faith. He might have acted harshly against Olivia because he always liked that they agreed on that, and these so-called miracles were disrupting a good thing to him. It wasn't that he actively hated religion, but since he was born, he was raised to only trust what he could see and have absolute proof for by his parents, namely his dad, who was disowned by his grandparents after coming out as an atheist. With his upbringing, he didn't even have memories of what believing in a god was like. To him, the concept of a deity or an afterlife had always been abstract, less tangible than the concrete reality of human existence. Kyle thought himself to be a good person, at least no worse than the average man. But now, the healing of the sick, the resurgence of species and sudden environmental recoveries did little to stir his spirit. Instead, they fed a deep unease within him, a fear of something he did not know how to explain to himself, and he felt guilty, thinking that this fear could be more important to him than others' happiness. As he parked outside his regular haunt, the outside of the bar seemed darker than normal. He wasn't sure if it was the early sunset of this winter evening or his own spiraling thoughts that made the world seem grayer. He thought maybe some booze would at least end his concerns temporarily, make him drunk enough to give him a break from his endless internal monologue. The bar was warm, a stark contrast to the chill outside, filled with the usual hum of laughter and clinking glasses. There were even a few families waiting for menus at tables behind him. He guessed Harper's expanded its dining options to bring in more types of customers. He settled alone at the bar, nursing his drink, surrounded by faces lit with contentment and eyes bright with optimism. It was here, in this unexpected sanctuary of old wood and the scent of beer, that he started to feel worse. Being surrounded by happy people made his solitude deepen. While Kyle was about to try and lose himself in some whiskey, desperate to make his emotions dulled, a man appeared quickly to take the stool next to him, an amused smirk playing on his lips as he observed Kyle's somber expression. He leaned in, his voice smooth and probing. "What's wrong, friend? You seem to be the only person around who isn't all smiles." Kyle turned, taken aback by the directness and the knowing look in the stranger's eyes. Who was this man? And how could he so clearly see something wrong in him? Was he so easy to read that someone who never met him could tell? As Kyle focused on the enigmatic stranger beside him, he was met with a visage that was difficult to categorize by age. The man's eyes were slightly baggy, hinting at weariness, framed by the salt and pepper pattern of his hair. But Kyle noted that he didn't possess the wrinkles one would associate with old age. Perhaps he was prematurely graying. The stranger's attire was almost uniformly dark. Black pants, a black undershirt and a sleek jacket, interrupted only by a striking gold-colored circle embroidered around the right wrist of his black jacket, giving him a peculiarly distinguished air. "Why do you ask?" Kyle's response was blunt, his tone edged with the residue of his earlier problems. The man's mouth twitched into a half-smile, as if he had anticipated the question. "I am always drawn to things that stand out," he replied, his gaze sweeping briefly over the jubilant crowd before setting back on Kyle. "Look around you, friend. People are celebrating and laughing. Yet here you are, drinking alone. I wonder what brought you to this state. Is something troubling you? Maybe you could use an ear to express your problems." His voice was smooth, almost soothing, but carried an underlying sharpness that suggested he was accustomed to cutting straight to the heart of matters. Kyle felt a reluctant intrigue stir, mixed with a bit of unease within him. It felt weird that this oddly dressed stranger had the confidence to approach him and ask about how he was feeling on this day. For all he knew, Kyle could be a mean drunk. He aimed to diffuse the mood with a joke, eyeing the man's unique ensemble. "Why do you want to talk to me? Do you like attention? Is that why you're dressed like that?" he asked, a hint of a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. The stranger laughed, a rich, warm sound that seemed genuine. "Buddy, I promise you, if you went to where I'm from, you would stand out way more than me," he replied, his eyes twinkling with amusement. Maintaining his friendly demeanor, he extended a hand. "My name is Vietin, pronounced V-A-Tin, like the metal. Here, it is a bit of a unique name, but trust me, it's more common back home. What's yours?" "Kyle," he responded quickly and shook his hand without thinking, then hesitated, wary of how much more he should divulge. "And why should I tell you what's bothering me, stranger?" Vietin's expression didn't waver. His interest appeared sincere rather than intrusive. "So, something is bothering you," he noted calmly. "Why not tell me? Did you commit a murder or something I can turn you in for?" He chuckled at his own jest before continuing. "Think of it like a taxi cab confession. Relieve yourself by letting it out. And then, who knows? If you want, forget I was ever here. But I just know you have something you want to get off your chest. And what do you have to lose by telling me?" Kyle found himself oddly comforted by Vietin's persuasion, the casualness with which he invited confidence. The bar's ambient noise seemed to recede, leaving the space between them charged with a curious energy. Maybe it was the strangeness of the night, or Vietin's bizarre charisma, but Kyle felt an unexpected urge to unburden. His presence seemed like an answer to an urge he had. Kyle wanted to vent to someone who did not think he was crazy for not accepting good news. This man was as good as any. Kyle hesitated. Then the words began to flow more freely. "I just feel something is off about what is going on. When I hear stories about people recovering from illnesses unexpectedly, or the coral reefs coming back, I feel suspicious for some reason." Vietin nodded thoughtfully. "Do you feel that we're being lied to? That somehow people are faking recoveries? Do you think it is a government plot tricking people? Do you think the dreams of dead relatives urging calm are just wishful thinking? Are we victims of some long con?" Kyle shook his head, a mix of confusion and realization coloring his tone. "You know what's crazier? I think there is a chance I might believe them. I think that a god, or some higher power at least, is helping us, and maybe even communicating with people, and that terrifies me." Kyle paused and looked guilty saying that, like he was miserable off the joy of others. But sitting next to him, Vietin seemed pleased with this admission, his eyes lighting up with a curious spark. "Go on, you can tell me. I'm not judging. Why does that scare you?" The question hung in the air, and Kyle felt the weight of it. He took a deep breath, searching for the words to articulate his deep-seated fears. "It's the power, the control. If there is a God, suddenly there's this supreme being with the ability to alter our lives, our planet at a whim. Where does that leave us? What does that make us? Are we just puppets in a grand design? Kyle's eyes met Vietin's, searching for judgment or dismissal. Instead, he found an attentive listener, one who encouraged him to delve deeper into his own psyche. Vietin leaned in slightly, his voice soft yet compelling. That's a profound fear. The loss of control. The loss of significance in our own lives if dictated by a higher power. It's not just the fear of being small. It's like you're afraid of being used, that your entire existence is just in service to someone or something. Kyle nodded slowly, feeling a strange relief hearing his fears and skepticism spoken by another. It was as if someone speaking them aloud robbed them of some power over him, and Vietin seemed better than anyone at putting his fears into words. Kyle shifted uncomfortably, his drink momentarily forgotten. You see, I was never religious, he confessed, his voice a shade lower. I never expected an afterlife, or thought I'd need to gain the approval of a divine being to not go to hell. I'm not exactly a good Christian, and the idea of an eternity living under a god has always scared me. What if I didn't measure up? What if my doubts and skepticism are held against me? Vietin listened intently, his expression contemplative. It's completely normal to fear such a drastic change in your reality, he reassured, his tone smoothing. Human beings are adaptable, yes, but they also grow comfortable with their understanding of the world. Think about how some people stay in bad jobs longer than they should because they're afraid to try new things or take risks. Don't feel guilty. You're having your foundation shaken. You are being forced to consider an entirely new dimension of existence where you're not in control. It's daunting. It would be weird if you were not a bit scared. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. And I sympathize. Truly. I certainly would not like to live under an eternal dictator myself. The freedom to choose, to question, to make our own mistakes. Isn't that what makes life so profoundly beautiful and terrifying at the same time? Kyle nodded, feeling a camaraderie in Vietin's words that eased the tightness in his chest. It felt good to have someone who agreed with him. Maybe it was self-serving, but he liked feeling validated. It was strange discussing such personal, existential fears with a stranger. Yet it felt right, as if Vietin had walked into his life precisely for this conversation. Can I ask you another question? Vietin asked politely. Kyle quickly blurted out, yes, feeling more comfortable. So, you did not account for the possibility of something more than this current reality? Vietin asked, his gaze penetrating. What do you mean? Kyle asked. I mean, have you ever considered the possibility of something stereotypically supernatural existing? Like ghosts, interdimensional beings, cryptids, yada yada, Vietin added. Kyle shrugged, a slight smile playing on his lips. I guess not. I think aliens might exist, but not anything like UFOs or alien abduction stories. Just in the sense that they are out in space and so far away that we will never encounter them. I don't, or at least didn't, believe in gods, the supernatural, or higher beings. I only believe in things I can see. Vietin very quickly produced a glass of wine and poured Kyle a drink. Quick enough that Kyle wondered if he missed the bartender, but he took the offered drink nonetheless. Sit back and let me explain something, Vietin said, his tone shifting to one of a university professor giving his favorite lecture. I don't want to live under a god either, but it amazes me that a lot of so-called skeptical people don't even consider the possibility of their existence. I understand not believing in the myths of this world, not believing Moses parted the Red Sea, or Muhammad had a flying horse, but discounting the possibility of higher powers simply because you haven't personally seen it seems ignorant to me. Kyle took a tentative sip of the wine, finding himself actively listening to Vietin's thoughts. The universe is close to infinite according to science, Viaton continued. Many scientists even believe in a multiverse, other dimensions and realms of existence so vast that the potential for a godlike being to emerge seems not just a possibility, but a certainty. Think about it. If the universe or multiverse is truly infinite, then every conceivable possibility must exist somewhere, including beings with powers and knowledge far beyond our own comprehension. Kyle considered this, feeling a strange mix of awe and unease. So, you're saying it's not just about belief. You have reasoning for a belief in gods. Exactly, Viaton said, nodding. It's about being open to the unimaginable. Skepticism is healthy, but it should be balanced with the acknowledgement that our understanding is limited. Just because we haven't seen something doesn't mean it can't exist. The universe is far more mysterious and complex than we can fathom. Kyle took another sip, the warmth of the wine spreading through him. I suppose I never thought of it that way. It's a lot to take in. It is, Viaton said. But that's the beauty of it. Embracing the unknown doesn't mean abandoning your skepticism. It means being willing to explore and question even the most improbable possibilities. In normal interactions, it's wise to be skeptical because people can deceive. But in the long term, keep an open mind and don't discount a possibility or a threat. Kyle noticed that Viaton's tone grew sharp, almost angry at the word threat, before he continued more calmly. Because you deem it unlikely. Kyle leaned back, swirling the wine in his glass, a wry smile tugging at his lips. So anything could be real. Vishnu, Buddha, Zeus, Cthulhu. He chuckled at the end, trying to lighten the weight of the conversation. Viaton's expression remained thoughtful. Infinite reality leads to infinite possibilities, indeed, he said. But you still don't realize one crucial thing. What happens when these realities and these gods start running into each other? Maybe they want to challenge each other for control. Maybe they have disagreements about what's best. One could be benevolent, another cruel. Kyle's smile faded as he considered the implications. You mean like some kind of cosmic battleground? Different gods with different agendas clashing over their visions for the universe? Exactly, Viaton nodded. Think about it. If there are countless realms of existence, each with its own deity or powerful beings, conflicts are bound to arise. Some might want to dominate, others might wish to protect or nurture. The resulting chaos could explain the unpredictable nature of the miracles and disasters we see. Kyle felt a chill run down his spine. The idea that their world could be a mere pawn in a larger cosmic game of power struggles was both terrifying and oddly fascinating. So, we're just caught in the middle of all this. Perhaps, Viaton said, his voice softening. But that's where humanity's strength lies. In the face of such overwhelming forces, the ability to adapt, to find out their own path, becomes crucial. Humanity might not have the power of gods, but they have resilience, creativity, and the capacity to question and learn. Kyle responded with a hint of a joking manner. You seem confident that this is the way the world works. Do you come to me to have someone to talk about this? Your theories on reality? Do you have some friend bored of hearing this speech over and over again? Kyle pondered the implications of Viaton's insights, feeling a pull between his inherent skepticism and the unfolding perspectives that Viaton presented, and more sternly asked, You are a happier man than I would expect, knowing what you believe. If you consider such infinite possibilities and how we seem to be at the bottom of the cosmic food chain, doesn't it make everything else seem under threat? Vietin's expression shifted. He paused and his voice became more serious. He said with some apprehension for the first time, "Well, let's just say I am not as powerless as most are in dealing with the true state of reality." He paused, his gaze penetrating, as if assessing Kyle's readiness for what he was about to disclose. "And perhaps there was a reason more than mere chance that I found you here today. Maybe I knew you would be interested in learning our way." Kyle's heartbeat quickened. The conversation was veering into territory that felt both foreboding and irresistible. "Our way," he echoed, curiosity threading through his voice despite his initial reservations. "Yes, our way," Vietin confirmed, his tone imbued with a calm assurance. "There are those of us who have chosen not merely to accept the existence and domain of higher realms and powers, but to engage with them on our terms. We don't bow in blind worship. We fight to control our own destiny." Kyle asked skeptically, taken a little aback by what he was claiming. "So you are saying you have power?" He was trying to maintain a facade of control, but his voice betrayed a mix of apprehension, curiosity, and annoyance. "Tell me, stop this beating around the bush. What are you saying exactly?" Vietin's demeanor remained calm, almost solemn, as he prepared to reveal more. "I came here to tell you that the people of the world aren't crazy. Many are right. A god, or at least something you would find indistinguishable from what you would consider a god, is coming to this world. This entity wants people to live forever in their kingdom. Maybe the old religions got some details wrong, but that part is true. What I am is part of the opposition to that." Kyle's face hardened slightly, the pieces beginning to click together in a way that felt both ludicrous and terrifying. "So, you are opposition to God. So you're like a demon," he concluded, his voice carrying a tinge of irony and disbelief. Vietin nodded slightly, an acknowledgement that didn't seem to bother him. "Many people would call me that, yes," he admitted, his tone even. "But as I told you, the details have changed. We don't want you to live eternally in hell if you join us. We want to help others avoid eternal servitude to any deity or deities." The conversation took a turn for Kyle, twisting into a narrative far beyond any typical barroom banter. His initial intrigue soured into frustration and anger, thinking this had to be some elaborate ruse. "That's it. You had your fun. Is this your hobby or something? You see someone sad at a bar and then play games with them?" His voice rose, a mix of anger and disbelief at his poor judgment entertaining this man for as long as he did. "I'm leaving. It would be good for you if you really are a demon. Then you can go back to hell." But as he neared the exit, Vietin did not move from his path. His calm, confident voice halted him. "You've heard a lot tonight. It's normal to feel overwhelmed," Vietin said, his demeanor unchanged by Kyle's outburst. He pulled out a cigar, and a fire appeared from his skin directly, lighting the cigar with his index finger and pointer fingers effortlessly. He extended the cigar towards Kyle. "Why don't you take a smoke to calm down? This is the best cigar you could ever have. Take it, and we can continue our conversation." "Your magic trick doesn't scare me. Any con artist probably practices to hone his craft. What are you, some internet prankster? Is there a hidden camera? Are you going to make a YouTube video saying, 'I tricked a drunk idiot into thinking I'm a demon'?" Kyle retorted angrily, his tone dismissive. "It's probably not too hard to make that flame. Now step aside, or you will have a problem. I'm not scared of you." Vietin took a slow puff from the cigar, the smoke curling around his face, adding to his confidence in the defiance of Kyle's anger. He said calmly, "If that magic trick isn't enough proof for you, why don't you look around? Don't you find it suspicious that no one else in this bar is reacting to you yelling at me?" Have you noticed the only sounds you have been hearing recently have been my voice and what I wanted you to hear? Kyle paused and glanced over his shoulder. His heart skipped a beat as he took in the scene. Everything was frozen. Patrons were stuck mid-laugh, glasses of beer suspended in the air, a waitress with her foot eternally poised in a step. Time itself seemed arrested, a still life captured within the walls of the bar. "What's going on?" Kyle, in his fear, forced out, his voice barely a whisper. "What are you doing to them?" "They're fine," V8 assured him, his voice smooth as he exhaled another plume of smoke. "We are outside of your reality for a bit, while I make my appeal. Only people who have their hearts open to my message can see me, and I came in here to talk to you, not them. Now, how about you sit back down and listen to what I have to say?" Overwhelmed by the impossibility of his surroundings, Kyle collapsed to the floor, his mind reeling. "I'm going insane. You're not real," he muttered to himself, grappling with the surreal experience. V8, unfazed, continued in a calm tone, looking down on the distressed Kyle. "Let's say you're in a coma, or you're having a psychotic break. Let's say I am not real. Then the reason you're seeing me is that I must be a part of you. Would it not make sense to still listen to what I have to say?" Almost mechanically, driven by a mixture of fear, curiosity, and a desperate need to understand, Kyle picked himself up off the floor and slowly made his way back to his seat. He sat down, eyes wide, staring at V8, ready to listen, not fully comprehending how he had come to accept the unreal situation unfolding around him. Kyle, now seated again and visibly shaken by the surreal experience, struggled to regain some semblance of control over the conversation. "What do you want? What do you do in opposition to these gods you're worried about?" he asked, his voice a mixture of defiance and curiosity. V8 exhaled slowly, the smoke from his cigar twisting into intricate patterns before dissipating into the still air. "I want to give the world, all worlds really, what you thought was going to happen at the end, and what we both regard as a better choice: annihilation. A good, long life, followed by a respectful end, and the long, dreamless sleep." V8 explained, his tone earnest, conveying a conviction that resonated with a profound, albeit dark, sincerity. Kyle's eyes narrowed, processing the gravity of V8's words. "Annihilation?" he echoed, the word hanging heavily between them. "Yes," V8 continued, his gaze steady on Kyle. "This God that is coming to this world intends to make people live an eternity as servants to him. My people fight in opposition to this, and we come to find those capable of fighting against eternal servitude. We seek to enforce an alternative, one that respects an order of life and death." Kyle felt a chill run down his spine as the implications of V8's words sank in. The concept of eternal servitude challenged everything Kyle had ever believed about life and death. "I ask you today to join me. We always seek others to join our work, and I can give you power like I have. And while your life won't be infinite, it will be longer, and during it, your riches and hopes will be granted," V8 said, his voice soft yet compelling. The request felt immense, weighted with a responsibility that Kyle had never anticipated facing when he walked into the bar that evening. Doing what V8 was asking meant siding with forces that defied the very essence of what many hoped for with all their heart: the chance to live with your friends and family forever. Yet, he could not deny the fears V8 was saying have been fought by him in the past as reasons he was happy he wasn't religious. Why would a god instantly be good? Could eternal life and the idea of a god mean eternal servitude? These ideas always worried him, but he was so certain in his atheism that a god to him was as likely a threat as Godzilla rising from the sea. But whatever Vietin was, he has shown him that he could not deny the possibility of spending existence at the mercy of a being he hated. "How can I possibly help with your goal? I am just a normal man," Kyle asked, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. His life had been simple before tonight, defined by tangible realities and immediate concerns, not cosmic battles and ethical dilemmas about the afterlife. Vietin smiled faintly, as if he appreciated the enormity of what he was asking. By choosing, by deciding not to live in denial of what is coming, but to confront it, to fight for the right to end peacefully, your voice, your decision, they can inspire others. You would be surprised how important you are to us. Every person we convert can help others hear our message. Vietin seemed to sense Kyle's hesitation and, for the first time that evening, showed a glimpse of vulnerability. In another world, not unlike this one, I was a man not too different from you, Vietin began, his voice softening. My world had its small differences. Like the Cold War was against a Tsarist Russia, not a Soviet Union. And the dodo bird did not go extinct. They were popular at petting zoos. He chuckled at the memory. Then his expression sobered. But then, a god came and made a world of no war, no poverty and no illness, but also a world without dreams or ambition. My former people are like trained dogs now, serving a master. Annihilation, he stated firmly, is the only way for all of existence to avoid that fate. Kyle listened, the imagery of a world so controlled and dreamless chilling him to the bone. But he did not offer a utopia or an alternative model, but destruction. Vietin has convinced the alternative to his goals was a fate so bad, total destruction of life was better. But Kyle was not nearly as certain. He thought of people who disagreed with him. He thought of Olivia, how even a skeptic like her was happy good things could be happening, even if it was not in the way she expected. He thought of the people on the news and how they were happy having dreams of loved ones, how the divine intervention seemed to give others hope. Vietin was not just wanting him to agree, he wanted to end everything and everyone. It would be denying the hope of families to stay together and reunite. If he went, would he not even get a chance to apologize to Olivia? Olivia, he thought. What would happen to her if he went? Vietin continued, seemingly noticing Kyle's state of contemplation, and locked eyes with him. I was where you are at this moment. And I said yes, I don't regret it, he said, extending his hand towards him. Come with me, and we might be able to stop it, and we can give freedom to others in the only way reality allows. Kyle hesitated, his mind swirling with the enormity of the decision before him. He was scared and blurted out, You are so certain this is the best way. Can you show me more proof? He asked, his voice wavering slightly. Could I see how your world is now? What happened? Can I have more time than just this moment, possibly have the chance to convince someone of your message? Vietin's calm demeanor cracked, revealing a flash of anger. I have given you more proof than any god, he snapped, his eyes narrowing. I came here and talked to you as a friend, an equal, not as a disobedient child who will never live up to his maker. I did not try to brainwash or deceive you. I can't take you to a world that is conquered. I can't save my world for now. And it is probably too late for yours as well. We have to work to get stronger, to achieve annihilation, and every soul helps. I am trying to save your free will and ambition. I am trying to recruit all people who will fight for true desire and will, to have reality go on happily until a respectful end. and escape the control of gods. This is your chance, friend. But you have to accept me yourself for me to have the power to take you away. I came to you in particular because I can tell your heart is open to me. If any other person you are thinking of would accept this message, we would have asked by now." "This isn't an easy decision," Kyle said slowly, trying to gather his thoughts. "You're asking me to trust you on faith, just like any god would." Vietin's expression softened slightly, though the intensity remained. "I understand the irony," he conceded, "but unlike those gods, I am offering you a choice with full transparency. You know the stakes. You know the risks. I can't promise you a paradise, but I can promise you a fight for yourself and a long, rich life with a satisfying end." Vietin put his hand out, inviting a shake, and it seemed to start to glow a bit, its form pulsing like it was about to send out a surge of energy. Kyle looked quickly around the frozen world surrounding him. It did not feel like this was a dream or something brought on by being drunk. The reality of Vietin's claim began to click. He truly was a demon, an opposition to God himself. And the scariest thing was, he didn't hate this servant of what people would view as the ultimate evil. Kyle thought he was sincere in his belief that his path was the best way for people. He was sincere that he was liberating people from eternal misery. Was he crazy for that? He knew history could make someone the hero or villain unjustly, and maybe the stories did that to his kind. He felt scared either choice would leave him in fear, facing annihilation and leaving everything, or a god that could hate and control him. He was scared, and in his fear, he thought of just wishing he could see Olivia now, and be with her to get away from what he is feeling. And through his confusion, he realized he could not leave with this figure. Maybe it was an inexplicable fear, or a gut instinct, but he knew he did not want to go with him. He did not want to live solely for his own ambition. He did not want this world or any to end. "No," Kyle said firmly to Vietin. Vietin's eyes flashed with anger, but he quickly composed himself, his expression settling into one of calm determination. "You better hope we still win," he scolded, "because you will come to regret this choice if we fail, Kyle. Maybe it will take you 1,000,000 years, but you will. There is a limit to what a spirit can endure." With those final words, Vietin disappeared. Not in a puff of smoke, but cleanly and immediately. Kyle started to get tired, and the world started to get blurry, and he fell to the ground. He came back to consciousness hearing a concerned voice. "Are you okay?" A waitress was kneeling beside him, her face a picture of worry. "You passed out," she said gently. Kyle blinked, trying to gather his bearings. "Where was the man I was speaking to?" he asked, his voice shaky. The waitress looked confused. "You were just alone at the bar, drinking. You were quiet, not talking to anyone until you fell off the chair and collapsed." He looked around, seeing the bar alive with its usual activity, feeling a profound disorientation. Had it all been a hallucination? A dream? "Thank you for helping me," Kyle said, forcing a smile. "I think I'll call an Uber and head home. It's probably best if I don't risk drinking. I'll pick up my car tomorrow." The waitress nodded, relieved. "Good idea. Take care of yourself." As Kyle left the bar, the cool night air hit his face, and he pulled out his phone to order a ride. As he waited, his thoughts turned to Olivia. He wanted to reconcile with her, to apologize and make amends. But the night's events weighed heavily on him, leaving him to wonder if what he experienced was real or just a vivid dream. But he could not dwell on this experience for long. Kyle felt that for now, it was good to focus on what he could control. On the Uber ride home, he debated what he would say to Olivia. He figured the best course was just to be honest and admit he was wrong, say the truth that he was and still is afraid of what is happening in the world. He's afraid that he doesn't have any control over his life, and he's afraid of what the future can bring. If it all was really a dream, Viaten could be a manifestation of his thoughts. Maybe he felt that he did not deserve Olivia, or she did not deserve him, and his mind was telling him not to sacrifice his feelings for her. It seemed possibly losing her brought on the most real nightmare he could ever have. He hoped that for now he could move past this experience and salvage his relationship. His thoughts consumed him until the Uber reached the apartment building where he and Olivia lived, and as he walked up the stairs he huffed and took a few deep breaths, a possible attempt to calm down his nerves. Hoping he will apologize well enough that Olivia will forgive him, he knocked on the door and Olivia was there almost instantly. She looked at him with a stern expression, looking up at him as he noticed her long brown hair away from her hazel eyes. It comforted him to see her after what he just went through. "Hello, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said the things that I did. Can I come in to talk about it?" She seemed to lighten up and moved away from the doorway and said, "Come on in." Kyle went into the apartment and sat down on his couch with Olivia, and they talked for about an hour. He expressed that he was wrong and he was scared, and Olivia forgave him, but was clear that bringing up her family to win an argument was something that should never happen again. Kyle agreed, and they were able to get back to normal pretty quickly. They were getting ready for bed, and Olivia put on some Netflix reality show that he didn't recognize. Something about marriages with big age gaps. Not exactly the thing he would normally watch, but he felt lucky to be forgiven so easily, and was not going to complain about Olivia's choice of shows. As they sat in bed watching the reality show, eventually they grew tired. Kyle turned to Olivia and happily said, "Good night, and thank you for forgiving me." Olivia said, "We all have bad days, and besides, it might not seem like it, but you're not the only person who has mixed feelings about what's happening." "Huh, so you have a friend of yours or someone who told you that they are worried?" "Not exactly. A nurse at one of the schools I sub at just disappeared. Some of the teachers told me she started going south when the miracles started happening, yelling at kids when they mentioned them. It annoyed her for some reason." "Disappeared?" Kyle said nervously. "Yeah, she stopped coming to work one day, and she seemed to have left her home abandoned. The police went to her house and she didn't take anything. She didn't even take her car. One of the main theories now is she went insane and ran into the woods because it's like she just left this world quickly," Kyle said quietly. "Yeah, you can say that. Maybe aliens abducted her." "Hey, maybe aliens are doing all of this, huh?" Olivia joked. "Yeah," Kyle quickly added, containing his fear as best he could. However, as best he tried, there was a clear look of discomfort on his face. He was afraid. He knew that the opposition Viaten spoke of was real, and he escaped it. Seeing the state he was in, Olivia sympathetically said, "Are you okay?" Thinking quickly, he just replied, "I'm just tired," as he brushed Olivia's hair away from her eyes affectionately. She did not need anything else after today, and the one thing he knew for certain was that he wanted to keep her happy. "Alright, get some sleep, and I'm sure you'll feel better in the morning." "Good night," Kyle said as he put his head on the pillow and closed his eyes. He was afraid, and in his fear he did something he never thought he would do. He prayed for the first time in his life. He wasn't sure exactly what he would pray for. It felt weird asking whatever he expected to hear him fix his problem, but he felt that there was nothing else he could do at this moment, except take a chance on this higher power. The world was going to change, and he was scared. In his fear, he asked for just one thing. He prayed that he and Olivia would be okay and happy in the world to come.